Good day, listener. The course is GSP 1202/2202 ULSSI, that is Use of Library, Study Skills, and ICT. It is a course for both fresh level 1 and 2 students. I'm going to take you through some aspects of study skills, under which we will cover reading, writing, and speaking. As a student, you need to know that reading, writing, speaking, and listening are all vital aspects of studies, as well as language skills. So the purpose of this module is to introduce you to some techniques of reading, writing, and speaking in order to ease the task of studies you will go through. Reading means interpretation. By interpretation, we mean the attempt for the reader to get the meaning of the material which he reads. So when we read, mostly we read because we want to acquire knowledge and skills. So reading at this level enhances the acquisition of knowledge as well as development of vocabulary. You cannot learn at this level without reading, but you are expected to know how to read. Knowing how to read will ease the task of reading. But you need to know that there are two types of reading. The first one is the intensive reading, and the second one is the extensive reading. Simply, intensive reading is the kind of reading we are doing now in academic studies. We read intensively. It's a kind of reading that involves a significant amount of reading. It requires substantial reading materials. And the strategies involved in this activity sometimes are scanning and skimming. And these are subtypes of reading. Scanning or search reading, this involves just identifying reading material. That is, before you read any material, you are expected to scan it. It's a kind of a search. You engage in a search. It is an attempt to find out what the reading material is all about. For instance, the content. You want to know what is there in the reading material. By skimming, it's just a kind of a reading you do generally, general kind of a survey of the reading material. In this case, in the case of scanning, for instance, you are looking for something specific, whereas in the case of skimming, you are just trying to find out what is interesting in that material. So that is intensive reading. Intensive reading, as I said earlier, is academic reading. The second one is extensive reading. It is a kind of general reading. So while intensive reading is specific, for instance, you are expected to read through the courses you are offering. You are offering certain courses and you read materials. You limit your reading to the materials on those courses. But in extensive reading, you extend the reading to other areas of knowledge. Here you are expected, for instance, to read newspapers, magazines, and all other reading that you are not even offering. So that is why they call it leisure reading. You do it at your leisure. Sometimes we think that the only way to entertain ourselves is to go out and play or listen to music and some other forms of leisure, but also you can read at your leisure time. To read is to engage in a kind of a process, and that is why reading is a process. It can be divided into three different activities. The activities you are expected to undertake before the reading, and they are referred to as the pre-reading activities. There are things you do during the reading, and there are things you do after the reading. So when we say pre-reading activities, these are the activities that prepare you for the reading. One important thing here is your purpose. You should identify your purpose, because the purpose of your reading determines your concentration on some other vital issues as far as reading is concerned. So you determine your purpose. Why are you reading? Get a better place to sit and read. Get a better book, which is the book that you required. All these are part of the reading activities. While you read, that is, as you read, you are supposed to concentrate, pay attention to whatever you are reading, take notes, and after the reading, do a kind of a review. So if you can do all these three things, it will definitely facilitate your understanding of the material you read. Here you find the activities I'm referring you to. Before reading, determine your purpose. As I said earlier, consider what you already know about the topic. Because for any topic, for any reading, you must have a kind of a previous knowledge, what you know about it. And then you build up from known to unknown. Review the text to make prediction. That you also do it earlier when you get the text that you are interested in reading, or the reading are required. While reading, one of the main things is that you should be able to identify the main ideas that the author is raising, so that you take note of them, either by using your notepad, or if it is your book, you can use your pencil and underline the main ideas. Again, as a reader, you are expected to understand the kind of language that the author is using, or even his mood. Again, you need to understand the form of document you are reading, because in some cases you realize that what you are reading is a narration. Sometimes you are reading a narration, or you are just reading an argument, or you are reading just reading a discussion on some topics or ideas. Again, when I say the mood of the writer, maybe in argument or even in narration, you will understand the mood of the writer or his tone. Again, there is something that is important, that is the opinion of the author also. You realize when you are going through his expressions, and you will understand whether what he is discussing is arguing for or against it. You need to understand and consider the supporting ideas. Whenever the author is arguing, for instance, he supports his argument with some point, and you have to take note of all this as you read. After the reading, evaluate the text to decide how accurate it is and its overall quality. By evaluation, it means your judgment, what you understand or what you think about what you have just read, and then you relate that to what you need, depending on what you are looking for in the reading material. And then there are also some reading techniques which are given by different scholars. One of which, the one we have here especially, is the SQ3R reading technique. So even in the SQ3R reading technique, you will find out that the reading is organized into pieces. What you do before the actual reading, and what you do while reading, and what you do after the reading. The SQ3R method of reading is an acronym. The S stands for survey, the Q for question, and the 3R, you have a read, you have a recite, you have a review. So if you look at all the four letters, you see, to survey is a way of getting a general overview of the reading material. Whenever you go into read a material, you are expected to survey it, to look at it, to make sure that it has what you are looking for. Question there, you are not really asking the material whether it has what you need or not, but the questions are meant to guide the survey. That is, it is a kind of a frame that there is something in your mind that you are looking for. So you have a kind of a frame, something that determines what you are looking for. And that is why the questions are meant to guide the survey about what you want to read, what information you need, etc. The first R means read. And this is when you read, when you sit down and read the material. Now, in reading whatever material you are reading, one thing that is important is how much time can you take reading it? 30 minutes, 1 hour? It depends on you, depends on the material, because if the material is that long, if you are reading, for instance, a book of 100 pages, it will take you, maybe days for you to read. But if you are reading, say, a chapter of 5 pages, you can read in 10, 20 minutes as well as understand. So here you read, but with that frame of mind, with the question in your mind, the questions you formulated, and that guide you are reading, because they will now guide you on what you are looking for, so that the moment you come across what you are looking for, you know that this is what you are looking for, and you take note of it. The second R is recite. It means after you read, after the actual reading, or even sometimes during the reading, there are situations where you need to stop the reading and ask yourself what you so far grasp from that reading. Sometimes, the reading material is not that much. At the end of the reading, then you do this kind of activity. It is it's like you are mentally answering the set questions. You have set some questions before the reading, and this question now helps in measuring your understanding or your ability to remember what you have read. The third R is review. That is, read what you have read and think about the author's ideas and claims and other information you should recall. Here, you are just expected to review what you have read, and in some cases, you realize that you don't fully grasp the information, so you can read again. That is why it is a review. It is like revision. You can read again. Some reading documents cannot be comprehended in one reading or one sitting, so you have to read and read again and read again. The first reading, you get the general idea. In the second reading, you determine what you are looking for, and in the third reading now, it's like you've mastered what is there. You will attempt to master what is there. I'm not saying that you should memorize. There are situations where you can memorize what you read, but the best thing is to understand it, and that is why reading is interpretation. Another vital aspect of reading is what they call speed reading. Speed reading or faster reading means reading a text very fast with understanding of its content and answering the question. For instance, when you are dealing with the comprehension passage. But again, there are different readers. Some are fast, or they can read faster, while some can read faster. So this depends on so many things. For instance, some of us read faster. Why? Because they are exposed to reading. That is, reading is not something new to them. They are familiar with reading. And for some that are not familiar with the reading, then that leads to slowing down because they are not used to it. Another thing to do with that is the level of vocabulary one has. If your level of vocabulary is higher, there is a tendency that you will read faster than that whose level of vocabulary is lower, because the moment you come across words that are new to you, that will now slow the reading. It will definitely slow the reading because you may not even pronounce the words correctly, and you will be thinking of what is this word? How am I going to pronounce it? Or what is even the meaning? And sometimes you just have to stop the reading and maybe try to get the meaning of that word from the dictionary, which is wrong. You are expected to get meaning of words as they appear. But if you cannot, then in the end you have to resort to the dictionary. So this kind of reading involves a great use of expanded eye span with the aim of going over the reading material. Yeah, it has to do with your eye span because sometimes you don't need to move your head this way and that way, following the line of the words or sentences. But you are expected to focus on the page, and then your eyes are now taking the words in a group, and that aids that speed of reading. If you cannot do that, then it means you'll be picking up words one by one, and that they call it word by word reading, and that slows down your reading. So speed of reading counts only when it goes with efficient extraction and assimilation of the required information. Yeah, if you are very fast in reading, it is worth it, especially if at the same time you understand what you are reading. But if you read faster and then in the end you don't understand what you are reading, I think it is better to be a slow reader in that case. But all the same, reading if you expose yourself to reading every day, frequent reading, then you realize that the speed improves. You can improve in the speed. As readers, we always have some problems. There are problems that affects the reading we are doing, especially at this level. So, and one of this problem, or the most fundamental problem, is lack of comprehension, and this is a big problem. Whenever you read and you cannot comprehend, you cannot grasp what you read, you cannot get the meaning, you cannot decode, or you cannot interpret what you read, that's a big problem. And that could be as a result of so many things. Yeah, maybe your background, lack of exposure to reading, lack of vocabularies, all this can lead to this lack of comprehension. Sometimes even your attitude to reading. Sometimes students have this bad attitude to reading, that is, they don't read frequently. They only read when they are going to write an exam or a test, and that won't help the situation. You have to read frequently. You read every day. Well, when you go for your lectures, after the lectures, you must have taken notes, read your notes, go sit down, read some other books, especially the primary and the secondary readings given to you by the teachers. Yeah, that will help much. Another problem is slow reading. Yeah, I have said it when talking about speed reading. Some readers are very slow, and if you are very slow in reading, it also has its effects. For instance, if you find yourself in a situation where your reading is limited to time, let's say in a comprehension passage, you you, you are given some minutes in which you read and answer the question. So in that case, if you are a slow reader, that will affect you very much. There are some other problems. If you read the lecture notes, you'll see them. So the ways to tackle these problems have been discussed under various subreadings above. For instance, you can tackle this problem by using the reading technique. For instance, SQ3R. That is, you survey the text before you read. You have a frame of mind. You set some questions, that these are the questions. This is what you want to find in your reading. Then you read very well. Actual reading, maybe you read 2 or 3 times. Then you try to recite. Sometimes you do it during the reading. As you read 2, 3 pages, you stop and think, ask yourself questions, try to see what you have so far grasped. Then in the end, you review what you did. So in this way, some of these problems, or even all of them, can be tackled. The second study skill is writing skills. Writing, just like reading, yeah. Also, in writings, there are skills as far as writing is concerned. I think it is wrong to believe that writing is natural. No, because yeah, some students think that there are some students that are gifted, that they just write naturally. Yeah, maybe it is true, but as far as uh, skills are concerned, then if writing is a skill, then it means that it can be learned. You can learn to write. Sometime I read one author was discussing, was arguing between reading and writing, which one is the most difficult. And for him, he thought that Writing is the most difficult. So I don't know, maybe you may have a different idea about it. So what is writing? Just simply, it is just an attempt to put your thoughts on a paper. Whatever you write or whatever you are going to write, then it's something that you know, or it's something that you think of, and you now put it down in a form of writing. But yeah, at the same time, it is a complex process. Yeah, it is very complex. It has its processes, just like reading. There is a pre-writing stage, that is before the writing. There are some activities, some things you are expected to do, especially you brainstorm for ideas using whatever method suits you. Before you write, you need to have the knowledge. You need to understand, get the ideas. For instance, sometimes our lecturers give us uh, assignments. Yeah, when you are given an assignment, definitely the lecturer knows that you don't know the answer. Because if you know the answer, then it won't be an assignment. And that is why it is an assignment. You will be expected to engage in a kind of a search. You go and search for the answer. So the question determines your search. So you brainstorm, yeah, you read, you do whatever uh, in a way of finding the information to write about. And there are so many ways of finding this information, what they call a method of data collection. So here maybe one of the methods could be reading. Yeah, you have to go and read some books and then get the knowledge and then sit down, think about it, and write. There is also a drafting stage. There is a stage in which, after the brainstorming, after the reading, now you get the ideas, then you sit down and write. So whatever you write is expected to be a draft. A draft is just a rough written version of something that is not in its final form. Yeah, our teachers always told us that they always tell us that writing is rewriting. Yeah, so the first writing is supposed to be a draft. Then if it is a draft, then you can what you can write a better version of that draft. So sometimes you write, you read it yourself, you realize that there are so many mistakes or even grammatical errors, and then you have to write again and again. You write again. So sometimes you have to write, at least you have to write 2 times. Write the draft, then make your corrections, and then write a fresh a version of your writing. Review and edit. And in this stage, you read your writing with a critical eye. Yeah, review and edit are all part of the things you do after the actual writing. You need to review what you have written, and you need to edit it, especially in the case of those students that take their assignment to typists. Yeah, when a typist types your assignment, you have to read it, do all the corrections, and then give it back to him to effect the corrections. Because in some cases, if you just collect the typed assignment and submit it, you may submit it with so many problems, and in the end, you won't score the required grades. Speaking skills. Yeah, as a student, we all know that speaking is another vital aspect in our studies. And there are situations when you will be required to speak. You could be asked by a lecturer to answer a question, or sometimes some assignments, or some, in some cases, mostly assignments are presented by students in the class. So, and that is where this skill will help you. And again, as a student, as a university student, you are expected to speak good English in front of your colleagues. You are expected to exchange ideas, to use the language, not just in the class. So speaking skills, what is speaking is just the ability to communicate using words. It's oral communication. But here our concern is with the spoken English. And one of the important things as far as speaking English is concerned is the pronunciation. It's called, spoken English requires learning correct pronunciation. Thus, in oral language teaching, consonants, vowels, and diphthongs are among the necessary learning materials. What I mean by this is that the sounds that we utter when we speak are very important, because that's the first impression your listener gets from you. Your ability to pronounce the sounds as they are supposed to be pronounced. So, however, skill in spoken English can be improved by learning the voice dynamics required for the language, like intonation, stress, and even the accent. So all these are vital aspects of pronunciation. First, the sounds. We all know that in English there are 44 sounds, 20 vowel sounds, 24 consonant sounds. Yeah, you must know this. Again, another thing is that the alphabets in English. There are 26 alphabets, and sometimes we confuse the letters or the alphabets with the sounds. Maybe because among the letters, some are look exactly like the sounds. For instance, you have the R, the E, A, the O, and U. But they are not. When you say A, E, E, and A, and O, and U, then these are sounds. But in the as alphabets, you have A, you have E, you have I, you have O, you have U. So sometimes this confuse some of us. Okay, as I said earlier, in order to express yourself effectively in intelligible speech, you need to be able to discriminate these English sounds. That is, you need to master the sounds, the 20 vowel sounds, in which you have the pure vowels and the impure vowels. Yes, and you also have the glides. And even among the vowels, some are long, some are short, and all this. And you have the consonant sounds, the 24 consonant sounds. You have to master them. Yeah, this is very important. Sometimes one of the problems we encounter, if we cannot now discriminate between the sounds and the alphabets, is this. The alphabets represent the sounds we utter. For example, look at the words here. You have fine, which is spelled F-I-N-E. And this is the other one in the slash is the transcription, that is the utterance. And it is fine, fine, fine. Now you can see it is represented by F and A and I and N. These are what represents the letters, but the letters are F-I-N-E. So you say fine, fine, fine. So what your listener hears is the sound, not the letters. So the letters are used to represent the sound, especially in writing. So look at city, C-I-T-Y, and look at the transcription or the utterance, the sound, S-I-T-I. And look at home, H-O-M-E is home, home. You have ha, you have a, you have u, and you have m, and that makes the sound home, home. Another thing you need to know is that the spelling in English, the way the words are spelled are not the way they sound. So there is no one-to-one correlation between spelling and pronunciation in English. And this is exactly what I'm trying to indicate here. You can see F-I-N-E is represented by the sound fine, 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 sorry, fine, fine. And then you see city, city, city. Now you see Y is represented by E sound. That is the problem. Somewhere when you see Y, it is different. For instance, in the word sky, sky, you have S-K-Y, and then in the transcription or the sound, you will have S-K, and you have I. So sky. So you see that the Y, the letter Y can represent I and can represent E. E. So that is why there is no one-to-one correlation between the spelling and the pronunciation of words in the English language. Okay, beside sound as well as letters, that is discriminating between letters and sounds, there are other factors that also pose challenges in effective pronunciation, and they are listed here. We have the issue of silent letters in English. In English, there are silent letters. We also have what is referred as spelling pronunciation. Spelling pronunciation. There is also mother tongue interference. Mother tongue interference. There is British as well as American pronunciation. There is the issue of stress and intonation. And we are also expected to take note of homophones and homographs. So this we'll look at them one after the other. When we say silent letters, it means that in English spelling, certain letters do not feature in the pronunciation. That whenever you try to engage such letters in pronouncing that word, the result will be wrong pronunciation of that word. So for instance, look at the words here. You have sign, you have muzzle, you have bum, you have wrong, you have listen. Now you can see that the letter G, the letter C, the letter B, the letter W, the letter T in the words respectively are bolded, and these are the silent letters in these words. They don't feature in the pronunciation. You say sign, sign, but the moment you try to say sign, yeah, then you can see the problem. Or muzzle, muzzle, you don't say muscle. It is not muscle, but muzzle. So you can see that the C there is silent. Even bum is bum, not bomb. Bomb, no. it is bum. So the last B is silent. Wrong, yeah, definitely you cannot include the W there. And then the last one, it is not listen but listen. Listen. So these are just examples of silent letters, and there are silent letters in so many words in English. So you should take care. We should know that some letters are silent in English. So the moment we try to engage them in the pronunciation, then we are definitely going to pronounce that word wrongly. Spelling pronunciation is another problem. It's an attempt to pronounce English words as they are spelled. You see, sometimes the way a word is spelled or written is not the way you pronounce it. And when you do that, then what you are doing is spelling pronunciation. So here are some examples. For instance, look at the word. Sometimes we say Wednesday, and that is a spelling pronunciation. When you say Wednesday, Wednesday is the spelling. So when you say Wednesday, is the spelling pronunciation, while the correct pronunciation is supposed to be Wednesday. Wednesday. Another one is education. The spelling is Education. But you hear students say education. So it is not edu but education. That's the correct pronunciation. The next one is receipt, or normally we say receipt. The next one is debt, but sometimes we say debt. So these are some examples of this spelling pronunciation. So sometimes this happens, especially when you are not familiar with some words. So the first time you encounter the word, then you try to spell it the way it is written. So I think the best way is if you don't know how to pronounce a word, you can use your dictionary. The dictionary has a transcription, and that is why you need to master the sounds, because in a dictionary it will transcribe. Normally there is a transcription of each word, and the transcription tells you that this is how it is pronounced. And on our mobile phones, there are applications for dictionary, and when you type a word in the search, then when you find the word, there is an icon that shows a loudspeaker. When you click on that, then you will hear the pronunciation. You will hear the correct pronunciation of that word. So you can do that as a way of practicing. Another problem is to do with the dialects of English language. There are so many dialects of the English language. The British, the American, even the South African or the New Zealand, Canadian. So there are so many Englishes out there. But let us focus on these two, because we are more familiar with these two, the British and the American English. As I say here, these are variations of the same language. It is the same English language, but they have differences. Especially in spelling and pronunciation, and sometimes the vocabulary, and also the stress pattern. Now, in case of spelling variations, here you have some examples here. If you look at, for instance, words ending in OUR, as in the British spelling, here you have honor, and it is spelled HONOUR, but the American spelling is without the U, is without U there, so you have HONOR. So words ending in OUR in British English are spelled with OR in American English in this way. So you have honor spelled the British way, and then honor, but the same sound, the same pronunciation, the spelling, and it is the same in the word color. Yeah, color and color. Yeah. Again, sometimes you see words ending in ISE, and then in American English you find them with IZE. So the difference is between the use of S there and Z in the American, or the S and the sound. So here you have organize, and here you have organize. Yeah, but the problem is, or rather the difference in the spelling. In the British English you have the S, and in the American you have V or Z. Another one is the spelling theater. Theater. You see theater with TRE in British English, but here in the American English is TER. So TRETER, theater. Again, there is another one here, dialogue. Dialogue. You can see OGUE in the British, and in the American you only have OG. So dialogue, dialogue. So you can see that there are so many out there, so many words with different spelling, and this is how you determine. This also you can find in a dictionary. It will show you, because for instance, even if you have your laptop, if you are typing, the setup of the language is American English, so when you use the British spelling, it will underline it in red, and it is telling you that it doesn't know the spelling. And when you go there and put the cursor on that and you right click, it will now give you the version of the word in America or in British. So you can learn from this also. Use the dictionary, especially. It will tell you that this is the American spelling and this is the British spelling. Stress is another important aspect of the sound, because in the stress is what we utter, and that is what the listener hears. So stress is very important, because the way you utter a word may affect its meaning. And stress is a degree of force or loudness with which a syllable is pronounced. So most words, especially words of 2, 3, 4, or more than that syllables, have their stress on a particular syllable. Now, example of word syllables you can find here listed. These are just examples of syllables. For instance, the word chair is only a monosyllabic word, but look at the word subject. It has 2 syllables. You have sub, you have ject. Look at summary, 3 syllables. You have some, ma, re. And look at agriculture. It's an example of 4-syllable word. Some words have their first syllables stressed, like this. Sometime in a word of 2 syllables, sometime the first syllable is stressed. For instance, in this case, you have subject, and this is a noun. Sometimes the syllable could be on the second syllable, as in subject, and that makes the word a verb. So sometimes the confusion is this: if you don't stress the actual syllable to be stressed, for instance, in the case of the word here, subject, if you mean to utter the word as a verb and you say subject, then it's wrong. Yeah, when you say subject, it sounds it is a noun, and also this stress has to go with the sentence, because for instance, if you are asking uh, a student, for instance, you say, what is the title of the subject you are offering? Now you see it is a noun, but if you say what's the title of the subject you are offering, you can see that it is wrong. So some other examples here, you have the word machine. Machine. So here the second syllable is stressed. You have the word here, it's a 3-syllable word, but the central one, the second one is also stressed here. Conductor. Conductor. And some on the side, as in, look at the word entertain. 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 So these are examples of how stress are important, as in the case of our pronunciation, or in the case of our speech. Another important aspect to do with the sound is the intonation. You can see that stress is associated with how words are uttered, and then intonation is at the sentence level. Intonation is the rise and fall or tone of the voice in speaking, especially as this affects meaning of what is being said. When you utter a sentence, the way you utter it, the rise or the falling of the voice determines whether what you say is a statement or a question, or some other things. So every kind of sentence here, if it is a statement or a question or a command or even an exclamation, they all have their intonation pattern. And the moment you change the intonation pattern, then there is a tendency of changing the statement. For instance, a statement can change into a question or vice versa if you use the wrong intonation pattern. Usually, declarative sentences or statements end with a falling pitch. For instance, in the sentence here in the italics, John is the new chairman. John is the new chairman. Now this is a sentence. This is just a statement. This is just a statement. But if you say, for instance, John is the chairman, now it sounds like a question, so not a statement. So that is why it has a falling pitch. That is, the tone of voice fall down, especially on the last word, chairman. So John is the new chairman. But questions, for instance, questions requiring a yes or no answer end with the rising pitch. That is, here the voice rises mostly in asking questions, and mostly in questions requiring a yes or no answer. For instance, are you sure you've got the date right? Are you sure you have got the date right? Now you can see the voice rises towards the end, and that makes it a question. So the listener, who the father referring to, whose the question is referring to, is just to say yes or no. Exclamations also are characterized by a high pitch throughout. So exclamations, they have high pitch, or rather they have the rising pitch throughout. For instance, what a lovely surprise! What a lovely surprise! This is high pitch throughout. So mostly statements and command, they take the falling pitch, while questions, they take the rising pitch toward the end, and exclamation throughout is a high pitch, or the voice rises throughout. Lastly, I think it is also important to say something concerning public speaking. Public speaking is just a verbal presentation of speech to an audience. As students, you may find yourself at one time or the other as a speaker. You speak to your colleagues, or you speak in a class. So you are expected to consider certain certain factors as far as a speaker is concerned. So in addressing an audience, whether the audience are large in number or small audience, for instance, in your classroom, yeah, certain etiquettes should be observed to achieve the desired objectives. And what are the desired objectives? Because in a public speak, when you speak to people, you are expected to you expect them to understand what you say, and that is comprehension. And sometimes you expect a response from the audience, and especially a positive response that tells you that they are comprehending what you are saying, and they respond, or rather they ask questions. Now, some of these etiquettes are one of them is the topic. Whatever you are going to speak on, you are expected to have a knowledge of that topic. So that topic is very important, as well as the personalities of your audience. You have to understand, or rather, it is necessary to have an understanding of your audience, whether they are adults or youth, your friends, or they are children. So their personalities matters, their gender matters, their status matters, so many things matter, so that you consider that in whatever you want to say, or even in the manner you speak to them, or even the language. All these are very important. For instance, if you are speaking to children, you have to use certain words that the children will understand. You have to come to the level of the children. And if you are speaking to adults, you have to use certain words that present you as someone that is disciplined, or some other things. So you have to observe some even ethical issues are very important, and sometimes your audience could be Muslims or Christians. So religion also matters at the personality of your audience. So you need to have an understanding of that audience, and that determines how you present your speech to them. You should observe the cultural etiquette. Yeah, in every society we have our own cultures, so you should understand the cultures and as well try to observe them. Another thing of utmost importance is voice control. Your voice, you are expected to control your voice. That is, there is a situation where you are expected to speak louder, in the case of, so that everyone can hear you, and there are situations where you are not expected to speak louder. Yeah, maybe you have to lower your voice. For instance, if you have a microphone, then you don't have to raise your voice, because the microphone will do that for you, and some other things. Another thing is tolerance. Yeah, whenever you are speaking as a speaker, for instance, even as lecturers, we have to tolerate the student. You have to tolerate their ways or their attitude. So if you are speaking to a public, you have to be tolerant, and tolerance encompasses patience and understanding. Sometimes you need to listen even to your audience. If they are trying to ask you a question, you have to listen to them, make sure you give them the right response. In presenting a written speech, use some preparatory groundwork. Yeah, if the speech you are presenting is supposed to be a written speech, you are expected to have done some preparatory work before the speech, so that you have something that will guide your speech. About the use of ambiguous expressions, yeah, in even if it is a written speech or just a spoken speech, you don't have to be ambiguous in your expressions. It has to be a straightforward thing, because the main objective is to pass the information, is to communicate. About the use of vernacular or slang and foul language. Now, all this you are expected to avoid as a speaker, because in a formal situation, for instance, in a classroom, yeah, you are not expected to use vernacular, except if the concept you are using, you don't have the concept in English, or it will be better understood when you use it in the vernacular. So maybe there are some situation where, but you should avoid using vernacular maybe in your expressions, and slang. Yeah, it's informal, and even foul language. Listener, this is where we come to the end of this brief explanation. And as I said earlier, you've just listened to uh, an explanation on the module 6, which is reading, writing, and speaking skills. What you have just listened to is just an attempt to give further explanation. And I hope you will read your lecture notes. And if you have any question, you can send your questions through the appropriate channels. I wish you all the best. Thanks. My name is Sana Abubakar.